Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back. It's been a long week. I've been quite busy, but on behalf of the Rescuing Our Communities community, I am Clayton here advocating, for National Crime Victims' Rights Week and the rights of victims of domestic violence. I myself am a victim of domestic violence, unfortunately, so I do have the legal right to talk about this because I'm not a poser. Today's broadcast is going to divulge a little bit into why law enforcement, namely district attorneys, do not enforce the rights of minority males when it comes to domestic violence or crime overall once they discover that the victim is actually a male minority and not a minority female. From, I would say, the beginning, probably the beginning of law enforcement, at least within the United States of America, considering the highly racially charged climate we've grown up in. Law enforcement has always had a problem with black men, more so back in times where racism was more socially accepted. But now it's been kind of masked into a, I would say, user friendly version of the past form of racism that went. Racism has been incorporated with several other aspects of injustice, namely sexism and bigotry. Because it's easy to hide racism behind sexism because sexism has to do with a dislike towards the opposite sex. And bigotry is just something else totally different. But racism is strictly not liking someone for their nationality or their skin color. Now, the problem with New York City and places in general, like this area of Staten Island, is that the executive level of the law enforcement body that controls the area happens to be Caucasian Americans who've grown up in a system that has basically propelled them and encouraged them to look down upon minority males. It's hard to deal with an organization where the head people in charge already looked down on minority males. So you can only imagine when they come into someone like myself, who's an innocent black man who was falsely arrested and almost convicted for a crime he didn't do. Naturally, they shy away from people like me because once they realize that they lied on me, people, I become the shame of the office. I become the ability to embarrass them. And people, I'm not alone because there are several people who are fighting Staten Island right now for false arrest and attempted false convictions that were pretty much spearheaded by Staten Island's District Attorney Michael McMahon. Staten Island's district attorneys have a long history of malicious prosecution and racism. And unfortunately, my community, the black men in my communities, because they were sexually attracted to my ex girlfriend, tend to try to overlook what I'm talking about as it's not valid. But they all know it is. Everybody on Staten Island knows someone who the district attorney's office has tried to put in jail for something they didn't do. It's just something that we grow up with, growing up with as minorities and male. And this is not only for men, this is men and women. Every woman, every man, everyone out there knows someone who was falsely charged by the Staten Island District Attorney's Office and had to fight it off or went to jail for something they didn't do. I'm not the only person. I'm having a power fluctuation in my basement, people. I don't know what's going on, but people, that was wrong. Again, people, I was a victim of a domestic dispute with a former partner who the relationship didn't work out. With respect to her, I'm trying to give her the ability to go on with her life. So I'm trying not to mention her name as much, even though she's still posting negative content on me. People, it is what it is. When you're dealing with crazy people who hate you, this is what you got to live with. The problem is when law enforcement will not protect your rights as a victim, which is what I am going through. Ladies and gentlemen, my offender has over 14 cases on Staten Island that she has never been before judged for. People, and the question becomes, why is that? It's not because I'm not credible. Because see, people, if I was honestly filing false reports, the police would arrest me. Because again, I was arrested last year for allegedly filing a false report against this woman. The problem with that false report was exactly 4 days before this woman made this report, I won a trial against her where she was convicted for harassment and burglary. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to explain to you the penal law and the criminal concept of filing for a false report in any state, in any city within the United States of America. The cardinal rule to remember is that you can only file a false report for a false report being made against you where it happened. I can't I can't live in Texas and move to New York and tell authorities in New York that this guy lied on me in Texas and got me convicted, and I got a conviction. See, people, because the state that prosecutes you for a false report has to have jurisdiction over where the report was filed. Unless you're on Staten Island, where you have a racist detective like Joseph Quirk and a super racist detective or district attorney like Michael McMahon, then you don't need any evidence. People, I got arrested for filing a report, which the offender was convicted of in the state of New Jersey in New York. Now, people, this report wasn't even reported in New York. It was reported in the state of New Jersey. But Staten Island is so racist, people, they arrested me for an alleged false report when the person got convicted in another state for the report. Now, I have been trying to get justice from the Staten Island District Attorney's Office, people, for 2 years. People, we are almost 3 years into this, and I have an honest confession that I want my entire audience to know. That as of today, and what's today's date? Let me be fair. What's today's date exactly? It's so early, you can't forget. I think it's the 25th. No, it's the 26th. As of today, April 26th, I have never received a reply from the Staten Island District Attorney's Office Domestic Violence Unit. People, I have never received a phone call from the domestic violence unit of the 120 or 123 precinct, the two precincts that I unfortunately had the pleasure of running into the racist and completely bigot officers in that precinct. People, I have never received a phone call, never, from domestic violence on Staten Island, and I have been the victim the entire time. People, I was arrested for allegedly violating my offender, calling her on May 16th of 2023. Prior to May 16th, 2023, I had an order of protection against this woman with lifetime conditions and 1,000-foot keep away. She was also facing criminal charges in the state of New Jersey and Essex County, New Jersey, for burglary and harassment. So by the legal definition of what a crime victim is, people, the man before you was the crime victim. But Staten Island didn't like that when I won that case on December 1st of 2022. No, they wanted the minority female to be the victim because she, being a beautiful woman, was far more marketable than me, a black man with a former criminal record who they couldn't market as well. So as you've noticed, I've posted to my social media 2 pictures. And if anyone who wants to follow me on Facebook. My name is Clayton Howard. I've been advocating for domestic violence for about a year now, based off the racism I've had to be subjected to by the Staten Island District Attorney's Office. Many people may have noticed that I have posted 2 women to my Facebook account, and they are both employees of the Staten Island Richmond County District Attorney's Office. These 2 women, Mackenzie Upshaw and Courtney Chase being the supervisor in her capacity, lied to me and tried to falsify the information with regard to the validity of my order of protection. What I have posted is a video where Mackenzie Upshaw agrees that I'm the victim and I should have never been arrested. But if you look at the text message that happened to be the image caption behind the backdrop of her voice and you read them, you see she lies to me and she tells me that my order of protection is not valid in the state of New York. And she also agrees that if something happens, that she would tell the district attorney the truth so I wouldn't be prosecuted. However, people, May 16th came and I was arrested, and Mackenzie Upshaw would not tell the district attorney the truth. She stopped answering my phone calls after that first conversation, and then the next time I call her, the woman that you see in my other post, Courtney Chase, began answering me, refusing to comply because she said now I was the defendant. Now, people, the truth was I had been calling Staten Island for a year prior to my arrest. And again, they have never returned my call as a victim of domestic violence. But then they charged me with a crime and they used their false and fictitious prosecution against me as an excuse not to help me as a victim of domestic violence. How can this office praise advocates for National Crime Victims' Rights Weeks when the stain of Staten Island sits before you telling you the truth? Last year, Francina Evans was honored. And I'm sorry I have to say her name because unfortunately this woman has become part of my story, being the fact that she lied on me and cost me thousands of dollars and got me falsely arrested for simply trying to win my freedom from her and my peace. This young woman lied to Staten Island. I got arrested, and Staten Island propelled her into stardom by making her a domestic violence star and victim of National Crime Victims Rights Victim of the Week last year. People, this week last year, Francina Evans was honored by the Richmond County DA's office for a false charge that never happened. Now that charge has since been dismissed October 30th of 2023. And to date, the Staten Island District Attorney's Office has not called me back, refuses to prosecute my offender, and refuses to honor me in any capacity as the legally, federally protected victim of this domestic violence situation. Ladies and gentlemen, that is injustice, and that is not what justice is about. Michael McMahon's office has been a cesspool of sexism, racist, and bigotry since the inception when he took office, I believe, back in 2023. But I think it was Dan Donovan before him. Forgive me. I think it was Dan Donovan before him, who I actually knew. Dan Donovan was a good man. Michael McMahon is the snake, is the wolf in sheep's clothing. He is a bigot and a racist. And the only reason Clayton Howard, the son of the Mother Teresa of Staten Island, Maggie Howard, has not gotten justice is because of the racially motivated climate of that office and the Uncle Tom pastor who is Victor Brown. People, men like Victor Brown, men like Michael McMahon are entrusted by the community to have a responsibility to look out for the people of that community. When a local pastor uses his ambition and his lust for a woman to control his ethical motivations, when a district attorney so obsessed with racism that he hides behind the color of public appearances with minorities so he can deceive the community into thinking that he's not the racist we all know he is, people, we have to expose that. Our children are in danger. Our fathers are in danger. Our uncles are in danger. Everyone we love is in danger in community like Staten Island, as long as corruption, bigotry, and sexism control the office of the prosecutor and the police that are supposed to protect the citizens of that municipality. Again, people, I was a victim. I could prove my victim status with 100% validity. Staten Island refuses to honor it, people. You know why? Because they made the mistake of honoring the wrong person. And because they are so bigot and so racist, they will not do the right thing and simply clear the name of the man they lied on. People, I'm down tens of thousands of dollars that I cannot claim from the state of New York because of the lie that the Staten Island District Attorney's Office refuses to open up and admit to, which is that my offender, Francina Evans, lied on me and got me falsely arrested and created an entire movement fighting domestic violence that was based off a lie supported by the Staten Island District Attorney's Office. Courtney Chase, the supervisor, she should be cited with ethical content by that offer. Mackenzie Upshaw should be fired. Mackenzie Upshaw lied and told the victim of a domestic violence offense with an order protected under federal statute that his order was not valid simply to protect another alleged victim that she personally knew and personally was probably attracted to, because clearly she gender identifies as a man with no respect to LGBTQ community. This woman definitely identifies as a man. So I'm almost positive she was sexually attracted to my ex and probably tried to shoot her little shot because she looked like a smooth sister. I'm not even going to lie. I respect swag. I could see it in her. You know what I'm saying? She might be a chick, but she's one of those type of chicks that thinks they're dudes. So she tries to carry herself like a swaggy dude. And I'm almost positive that girl hit on my ex-girlfriend. People, sexism, racism, and bigotry should not control justice. The rights of victims should. Again, I was a victim. When will Staten Island grant me the justice that a court awarded me when it had decided, and it definitively decided, that my offender, Francina Evans, was guilty of harassment and burglary? People, to date, my offender has never been held to account by the Richmond County DA's office. But we will keep fighting. We will keep spreading the message. We will keep taking support from those who like to fight for racial injustice. I thank everyone who's donated to the Cash App. The GoFundMe is still a little slow, but I'm learning that process. But I thank everyone who has donated to the Cash App to help me finance the events that we will be hosting this year on Staten Island to fight racial injustice and malicious prosecution. Because people, it matters on Staten Island. Although my domestic violence situation may be over for the most part, people, as again, I have had some form of slight peace in the week. People, it's not over. My rights were violated. The rights of other victims are violated. Until those rights are acknowledged by an office like Staten Island, people, my job is not done. My mission is to expose the racism within Staten Island's District Attorney's Office. My mission now is to expose the corruption within the NYPD and the unholy connection between the clergy on Staten Island and the most racist prosecutor probably in the history of Staten Island, Michael McMahon. I don't have a personal gripe against Michael McMahon. Up until recently, I respected him until I realized that this man was responsible for the hell I was going through. I don't deserve that, people. I deserve the rights that I was awarded as a victim. I should not be fighting for my peace 2 years later because a racist prosecutor's office and corrupt police, along with an Uncle Tom community of bigots and race traitors, choose to keep coming after me. And people, I'm sorry if that language sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Pastor Victor Brown, he lied on me, and he helped this girl continue to lie on my recently dead mother to convince people that I had offended my mother and that I was a diagnosed schizophrenic. Ladies and gentlemen, the advocates from the Richmond County DA's office, Mackenzie Upshaw and Courtney Chase, they knew Francina Evans was not the victim, but they hid that information from the community because they wanted to propel her onto the stage for an event where they wanted to honor a beautiful minority woman. So this was all a political play. This was all a public play. This was all a publicity stunt because they saw the attractiveness of my ex-girlfriend and realized that they could exploit it to their advantage. People, that's not justice. What type of office does that to innocent victims, people? I'll tell you what type. The type that needs serious overhaul and serious regulation. People, I'm fighting. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to expose this office for what they did to me. The simplest thing that the Staten Island District Attorney's Office could do is apologize. The simplest thing they could do to me as the victim is call me back or call my attorney and say, listen, we made a mistake. We realized that your client was the victim. We apologize and we're going to do the right thing. But people, they can't do that because the racism in that office and Michael McMahon and Darren Albanese and Giovanni Giovazzi, the prosecutors I was involved with, people, these are all Caucasian people who have no respect for black people. They do publicly because they have to. It's their job. But privately, they go home and they have their little racist shrines in their house where they probably throw darts at niggas' faces. Excuse my language. That's what I feel. That's my right. And that's what I can express. People, again, these are supposed to be ethically competent people who refuse to grant me the justice that I fought for and actually was granted on October 30th when my charges in the Richmond County DA's office were dismissed. People, they refuse to prosecute my offender, which is costing me thousands of dollars because I can't get reimbursement until Staten Island, New York charges my offender with what they did and respects my victim rights. Ladies and gentlemen, I fight today. I fight every day. I will fight until I expose what Staten Island did to me because, people, my offender is not my problem. She has caused problems for me, people, but I'll be fair to her. She was a broken-hearted woman who wanted revenge against the man who hurt her. People, millions of women have done that to men. I can't hate her for that. I can't hate her for being in love so much and being so hurt she wanted to hurt me. But people, I can be angry at the racially biased justice system that violated my civil rights. That I can be angry about. My ex, Francina Evans, she's not the problem, people. She is a problem for me, but she's not my major problem. My major problem is the corruption on Staten Island, the racism that is in the district attorney's office, the racism and bigotry that exists within the NYPD, and the Uncle Toms like Pastor Victor Brown willing to sell out the members of his community for an additional star on his shoulder or a notch on his belt. No, people, I will fight these men until they grant me the justice that I earned and that I have the right to as a recognized victim of domestic violence. People, this is National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Why are we highlighting advocates? Why is the district attorney's office highlighting advocates they claim do their job when I have recordings of advocates and text messages where advocates are lying to clients, telling clients that their orders of protection are enforceable in New York to protect other people that they personally know? People, that's not a just advocate. That's not a righteous advocate, people. That's an unethical snake of an advocate who uses her position within that organization to back women they're attracted to or are their friends or who they might have a bias to help instead of the actual victim. People, again, I was the victim. Staten Island wronged me, and I'm going to keep fighting until they right the situation they did. People, help me stop racial inequality and racial injustice, not only in Staten Island, but in communities anywhere, in Brooklyn, in Queens, in Compton. People, wherever racial inequality exists between law enforcement and minority males, people, that's where we're going. Help me join the fight. Help Operation Rock fight for all the communities of the United States, not just Staten Island. I happen to be from Staten Island, New York, and people, I choose to use the place where I originate to start the fight against the corruption I know exists. People, you can start that fight in where you live. It's not hard, people. It just simply takes you having the courage to open your mouth and speak against the injustice that you see and the injustice that has been done to you. On behalf of Operation Rock, people, I'm Clayton, and this is my story. I am a victim. It is National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and I fight for my rights as a victim against a racially biased district attorney's office who refuses to grant me my rights as a victim, even though I won them multiple times in state courts. People, help me stop injustice. Help me fight the Staten Island District Attorney's Office and the racism that exists within law enforcement on Staten Island.